Hi, I'm Jim Wilde, the Director of the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership, and welcome to the second episode of Smart Home Buying with the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership. And with me today is Diane Silva.
Hello, Jim.
Hi, Diane.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great to be here. As you know, I work for Enterprise Bank. I oversee the mortgage lending area, and I've been doing that for almost 40 years. And I am probably the longest serving board member of the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership. I've been there for almost 30 years. I started out as a home buyer counselor, and then I've been on the board since then. I'm currently the vice president of the board, and I enjoy it very much. The work that MVHP does is unbelievable for first-time home buyers.
Well, thanks, and time flies, huh?
It certainly does. Certainly does,
So
especially when you're having
fourth
fun.
grade.
That's right. So we're going to talk about the home buying process and the steps to home ownership. So maybe, Jim, you could tell us what MVHP does and a little bit about those steps and who's involved with it.
Okay, sure. Well, our main focus is doing homebuyer training classes. So we educate first-time home buyers about the process of buying a house. So we conduct a 10-hour comprehensive training program for first-time home buyers.
And I assume there's several professionals that are involved in that process.
Yep, we bring in, our staff teaches a good portion of it, but we bring in professional guests who are lenders, attorneys, home inspectors, real estate brokers, to talk more in depth about their area of concentration.
And they talk about the mortgage process as
and
well,
the mortgage
right?
process, yep.
Right.
So buying a house is, it's complicated, it's emotional, it's
Scary.
expensive, it's scary. It probably is the most expensive purchase that most people make in a lifetime.
Right, and there's a lot of different aspects of it. It's very complicated, as you said.
And there's a lot of things that can go wrong if people aren't properly prepared or are not working with the right people and know what they're doing. So investing 10 hours of your life into making the most important purchase of your life is really time well spent.
We talked about the mortgage process a little bit, and one of the things that we actually do in the class is explain the mortgage process and the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. Do you ever get asked about that during the class?
Oh, sure, and we cover that. As a matter of fact, the first night of the class, we spend about an hour just talking about the process, the overall process, and identifying who all the professionals are. So the steps basically are starting off by taking a class. When you finish the class, people can meet individually with our homebuyer counselor. Ed Alcantara is our homebuyer counselor. He's very experienced. And Ed will sit down with you with a client for usually about 2 hours and go over their credit history, their work history, all their financials, and give them a really thorough assessment of their readiness to buy.
That's really important because I think what you said, readiness to buy, because not everybody is ready to buy. And the process is very, very complicated. So to have somebody like Ed on one-on-one with potential buyers, that is a tremendous service. Unbelievable.
It is. He really is, and he's very good at it. And it's, some people are ready right now. Some people have credit issues that need to be addressed. Some people need to save more for a down payment. Some people have to establish or repair credit. So after they meet with him, then they know what to do so that by the time they get to the lender, they're that much ready. They're that much better off. So do you want to explain the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval?
Sure. Pre-qualification is just really an estimate of what somebody could actually afford on a potential sales price. So if somebody were to come to me or go through the class and say, I'm looking for a house in the 300 to 400 range, we would be able to work actually backwards and find out actually what their income is. And what they would actually qualify for. So it's just really an estimate. Pre-approval is much more in depth. The lender would actually run their credit report, actually verify income, verify their down payment and assets. So really they're ready to meet with a real estate broker and shop for a house in the price range that they actually qualify for. The last thing you really want to do is go out there and be looking at houses that you really can't afford. I mean, that is so disappointing, and it's really it takes up a lot of time. So, and the pre-approval is written, and it's usually good for anywhere from 30 to 90 days, and it's a certificate. We call it a certificate, and you can actually give it to the real estate broker, so the real estate broker has a much better idea of the houses that you should be looking for.
And when you think about it, most people, when they decide to buy a house, their first thing is to go start looking at properties, or to call a real estate broker.
That's right.
Without, intuitively, that's where they start, without building the foundation.
Right.
And so, getting the, learning the process, knowing the professionals, and then getting your finances lined up is really the beginning point. So once they've done that, they've got the pre-approval, the next thing they need to do is figure out what kind of house do they want. Do they want to buy a condominium? Do they want to buy a single-family house? Or do they want to become a landlord and buy a 2 or 3 family property?
Right. That's for a first-time home buyer. Not only are you new to home ownership, but being a landlord, that adds another layer of complications. So MVHP also does landlord counseling.
Yes, we have a fairly comprehensive 4.5-hour, pretty intense course that we do once a month, and that's everything you need to know about being a landlord, and how to select tenants, the laws about security deposits, different types of leases, all of those things. And a lot of people finish that class and feel really enthusiastic about becoming a landlord, and some people walk out shaking their heads thinking, this isn't for me, which is a really good thing to know in advance.
And again, the amount of information that a potential home buyer gains from going to the classes, it's really invaluable. The potential buyers that we see are so much more educated and so well qualified by the time they reach the mortgage process stage. Mm-hmm. It's great.
Yeah, I love it. Never gets old.
No, it doesn't.
27 years, it doesn't get old.
It's always great to see smiles on people's faces when you hand them over the keys.
Yeah, it does make your day. We've had 18,000 families so far.
Wow, that's tremendous. That's unbelievable. And I think you have great statistics as far as successful home ownership. There are your stats are much below the foreclosure averages than for customers or people that have not gone through the class.
True. A little education goes a long way.
Exactly.
So once people decide what they want, they've got their financing lined up, they know what they want to buy, then the fun begins. Then you engage a buyer agent and you start looking at properties. You can look at 5 properties, 20 properties, whatever, till you find the right one. Then you make an offer on the property. Once the offer gets accepted, the buyer typically gets a home inspection. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do a whole episode of this program on home inspections.
Oh, that's great.
So we do, very important. So the home buyer has a home inspection done so that they really know the physical condition of the property they're buying. Then they need to go buy insurance, homeowners insurance, prepare for the closing. They also need to enter into the purchase and sale agreement. This is when the lawyers get involved, and the offer becomes the purchase and sale agreement, legally binding contracts.
And at that point, they are required to put down a down payment. And the amount of the down payment varies, or deposit, on when they sign a purchase and sale agreement to actually bind it and show that they are really a serious buyer.
Right. You typically make an offer. You put money down when you make an offer. Usually around $1,000, mm-hmm. And then when someone signs the purchase and sale agreement after the home inspection, that deposit's expected to increase, right. And that's money that's held in escrow by the seller's real estate agent, which gets applied to the down payment when the sale goes through.
Right, and usually the purchase and sale agreement is written that they have a certain number of days in order to obtain their financing, and if they are not able to obtain their financing, then they're eligible to receive their deposit back. So it's not lost, but it's one of the reasons why before anybody signs a purchase and sale agreement, they should have an attorney review it for them, because
Right.
there's a lot of nuances in the law, and most people don't understand everything. So having an attorney look at it is highly recommended.
Right, and these are legally binding contracts that are written with legal terminology.
Right.
And so the average person is not used to reading contracts, and so it is very important. And in the classes, we have an attorney who comes in and does an hour-and-a-half presentation on the contracts. So people
And
really know.
does the real estate broker review the purchase and sale agreement in the class as well?
The real estate broker typically goes over the offer to purchase, because they're more involved with the initial offer. And then when it gets to the purchase and sale agreement stage, that's when the attorney comes in and reviews that contract.
Okay.
So getting the home inspection, and then signing the purchase and sale agreement after you've had a lawyer consult. Then the next thing is to go buy homeowners insurance, which the bank is going to require, that's in place at the time of purchase. And then at that point, the buyer's work is mostly done. Now all the people behind the scenes, the lenders and the attorneys, are all doing their due diligence to prepare for the closing. So the closing is the day when you become the homeowner. You go to the closing, you sign your name about 50 times, no exaggeration, and you write your initials about 150 times, no exaggeration. Then you leave with no money and a set of keys.
Paperwork.
A 30-year mortgage, no money, and a set of keys. And the
So-
moving trucks out front.
That's right. So as you can see, this process is very complicated, and it can be overwhelming, but the amount of professionals that are involved along the way can really help the entire process, make it go a little bit more smoothly, because it's
A lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of moving parts, no pun intended, and it is the biggest purchase that most people will make in their entire lives. So to get the professionals involved is an absolute must.
And who are they? They're the lender, the attorneys, the home inspectors, the real estate brokers, and the insurance folks.
Insurance agents.
And there's also going to be an appraiser involved,
Right.
and which I think you'll talk about when we talk about the mortgage process.
Right.
And probably the single most important thing people can do to ensure that they have a good experience purchasing a property is to put their energy up front into picking the right team. Everybody needs a lender, everybody needs an attorney, a home inspector, and a real estate broker. That's your team. And having the right people on your team goes a long way toward having a good experience.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, I think it's really invaluable to have all of those people working for you, because you don't do this every day. Home buyers don't do this every day. So
It also takes the stress out of it, so you're not constantly
it's
playing.
still,
It's still
a
extremely
little
stressful.
but it definitely does take the stress out of it when you have the professionals working for you.
And you make better decisions
Absolutely.
because everything's lined up when it's.
And there's a lot of professionals involved at MVHP. The individual counselors will talk to you about the steps in the whole process. And one of the things that I really like is just the one-on-one, because no two homeowners are the same. Everybody is different. So it's, for them to talk to Ed, and explain their particular situation. Ed's conversation with one person is going to be different from his conversation with somebody else.
Right. And one other thing that we didn't mention before is the process of getting down payment assistance. So if someone's a first-time home buyer in the city of Lowell, we have 2 different programs. And Kathy Mercado in our office administers those programs. So that's something that helps people with meeting the amount of money that they need to get in the door.
Yes, and I think that is a lot of the challenge for first-time home buyers. They can afford the monthly payment, but they lack the down payment that's needed to come to closing with. And the more of a down payment you have, the more capacity for sales price that you have.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Diane. That's how you buy a house.
That's right. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.